Metaphors make good use of our kind of cognitive resources. We think in metaphor all the time anyway, so if you can insert the right metaphor into your communication, it's very powerful and very quick and concise. So metaphor interrupt default thinking with new yet familiar ways to think differently about an issue. They provide a strong mental image. They can be very powerful and vivid. They make abstract, complex concepts simple and concrete. Crucially, if it's the right metaphor, without dumbing them down. So it's doing that job of saying, this is how it works, but without saying, I'm going to bore you with the complexity of this. It's just a way of encapsulating that complexity. And they explain why something happens. They explain process, rather than allowing people to think that it's just the way it is. So we tend to approach things thinking that they're just that way. And actually, if we can fill it in a bit more, with a quick dose of the right metaphor, we can powerfully kind of override that kind of naturalistic or deterministic way of thinking. So the metaphor that I'm going to share with you is all about interrupting this idea that the ocean is a vast, separate other world, and the idea that the only thing that we need to worry about is plastics. We need to broaden and deepen understanding, we need to get people to connect it, and we need to show the need for systemic solutions. And that's the metaphor as the planet as a body. So the planet is made up of a set of interconnected and interdependent parts, just like the human body. In a body, an injury or illness in one part can lead to problems in another. And then you can kind of go in and fill out and be more specific and more concrete about those different connections. So the great thing about this is you can use that metaphor very explicitly. You can say parts of the body, you can use that as a this is like this, it works like this, a very kind of explicit use of the metaphor. You can also evoke the idea of health and the thinking that leads to in all kinds of different ways. So you can talk about the damage being done as hurting, injuring, inflicting, wounding, infecting, lots more words in it's the language of health being applied to the ocean. You can highlight specifics. You can talk about symptoms, conditions, syndromes, and ailments. You can look to the past and the future by talking about the diagnosis, the prognosis, the treatment. The language, the lexicon of health is so rich and varied. It affords you so many different ways to say and to know that when you're doing this, it's doing powerful work in people's thinking. We've talked a lot about kind of efficacy and urgency. We need to convey intentionality and efficacy when we talk about solutions. So we can use the language of health to help us do that. We can talk about healing, reviving, treating, and curing. So that's kind of one strand of the health strategy. There is a second one, which is connected, but it's all about showing that human health is at stake. So that looks a bit like this. The ocean is vital for human health. It sustains human life by generating oxygen. It provides most of the oxygen we breathe on land. It's also a major source of food and medicines. So as a society, we need to, human health is at stake. We need to act to protect the ocean. And I think that what this is doing, it's kind of filling in some things that people will have varying degrees of knowledge of, and being more specific and more explicit about human health as being reliant on and dependent on the ocean. And where you can be really powerful, and I think one of the lovely kind of strands of this strategy, is that you can do both of these things together, and you can know that they're working together and they're making you more effective in being heard and understood. So humanity, the before example, humanity is exacting a terrible toll on the ocean. Climate change combined with negative impacts of other human activities is having a devastating effect on our ocean. We can say our health is intertwined with the ocean's health. For example, pollution in the ocean can expose us to toxins in our water and food supply, and that can make us unwell. Healing the ocean heals our health. So you've got that double dose of health. You've got the ocean's health, you've got our health.